Aloha and welcome to the Savvy Luminary, an astrology podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, a brand astrologer, designer, and spiritual business owner who has helped hundreds of businesses and nonprofits go from stuck to unstoppable. I am here to inspire you to make confident and focused moves that shine the light on your business through astrological insight, brand strategy, and interviews with other spiritual business leaders. I believe you are here to share your magic and shine brightly like the luminary you are meant to be. Okay, let's dig into this week's episode. Hey everyone, it's Leslie Tagorda, your brand astrologer and designer here. And today's episode is all about Aries. We're going to be talking about the new moon and the initiative that we need to take in our business and brands that is represented by Aries. I'm hoping that in this episode that we're all going to feel motivated to start over fresh. You know, we all have this vital Aries energy in our charts somewhere. And this tells us where in our business we need to show initiative to be the leader. So, after this episode, I really want you to decide on where you need to make a fresh start, where you can ignite your brand, and to use this upcoming new moon in Aries to your benefit. In the midst of chaos, beauty can emerge. One of my crystallized students reminded me earlier this week by sharing this lovely live video. Her name is Joanna Lynn Steffel. I'd love for you to follow her on Beautifully Chaotic. It's a Facebook group. Anyway, she reminded me that chaos, within chaos, it's like a womb where things are starting to take shape. And we are in the midst of chaos. Right now, we are in the midst of a huge opportunity. It may not feel like it right now for most of us. You know, I'm recording this episode right as in San Francisco, they gave us a shelter in place. We are on day 3. We'll see how this survives. I'm actually recording this with my fingers crossed that my son will continue on his midday nap. But, you know, we all have an opportunity right now to reinvent ourselves in our businesses for the next evolution. Aries season is a time of rebirth. Aries is the start of the astrological new year, and this energy is here to support us, right? So, where can you get unstuck and visualize this time as a place of rebirth? In today's episode, we're going to talk all about Aries season, everything you wanted to know about Aries. We're going to go house by house where Aries might fall in your chart and review where in your business that you need to be the leader. We're also going to go over the new moon in Aries so that you can set your intentions around self-leadership in your business. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to ask you some prompts and some questions that will hopefully ignite some ideas for you. And then, of course, I announced last week, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about our very first guest airing next week. If things go as planned, we're supposed to be recording tomorrow. And of course, ending this episode with the astrology highlights for the week of March 22nd to March 29th. Before we get into this episode, I just wanted to remind you, mostly me, that we're all in this together. Last week's episode, I spent the entire time talking about what we can do to stay calm in our business and the opportunities that can present themselves, what we need to do with our business during this time. But all of this revolves around us making choices from a place of calm and hope versus making choices and decisions based from fear. So keeping centered, keeping flexible, keeping kind, especially to yourself and the ones that are closest to you, trusting your intuition and like getting really clear, turning all of that fear away so you can get really clear and centered and just taking it easy. This is our opportunity. And here as entrepreneurs, we need to be reinventing ourselves always. And in our businesses, this is a time for evolution. It's a time of rebirth, and Aries energy is going to support us. So I hope that all of you do see this as an opportunity, and please, please, please don't be opportunistic, but use this opportunity for good. So, all right, so let's talk all about Aries season. Aries season is the astrological new year. It's all about new beginnings. Aries is a cardinal sign. All of the cardinal signs are either on an equinox or a solstice. These are the beginnings, the changing of the season. So, us in the northern hemisphere will be starting the spring season, and this is a time of beautiful renewal and refreshment. There's all these different holidays around this spring season that celebrate rebirth. Think about, the Christian holiday that was based off the pagan holiday of Easter, and all of the bunnies and all of the flowers and everything that comes into bloom at this time. So, Aries is a fire sign. Fire signs like Aries and Leo and Sagittarius, they love to be inspired. They are connected through spirit. And Aries is also, I mentioned earlier, a cardinal sign. The cardinal signs are the instigators. So if we think about fire, that's already a spark, an instigator, one that is fired. And we combine it from this place of being cardinal, like the sign that takes initiative and takes a start. Aries is a combination of all of these expressions of self-starting, igniter, instigator. And of course, it would be ruled by the planet of Mars. If you think about the planet of Mars, Mars is about motivation, it's about action, it's about taking initiative and going. And of course, at its lowest perspective, at its lowest vibration, it's, about conflict and war. And so all of these energies, there's no good or bad. They're just different levels of vibration that can be expressed at any one time. So Aries is also the ruler of the first house, and I'll be going into a little bit about the house systems in a future episode. But the first house is the first kind of pie piece of our natal charts that indicate in our charts in traditional astrology, it's the place of our body and our face and our identity and our ego. And when I'm looking at it from business astrology, I'm looking at it as our place of our brand, our place of our self leadership, our place of where we need to be bold and courageous and confident. The mantra for Aries is I am. So when we think about Aries and its opposite is Libra, for Libra, it's about we, and Aries, it's about I am. It makes sense because as Aries is the baby of the zodiac, right? And if you think of babies, all babies know is about them, right? It's this kind of idea where you can forgive a baby for being selfish. They're concerned about themselves. But as we mature and grow into adulthood, Aries, a low expression of Aries could be one that only thinks about themselves, or one that just thinks of them as like so much better than the other, like they have like this kind of superiority complex. Sometimes because of this superiority complex or always wanting everything for themselves, Aries can get stuck in frustration or impulsiveness, and of course be impatient. Again, all very low vibrations of Aries, but we can all relate to this. We are all some of these things some of the time. And at its highest expression of Aries, which is so beautiful to me, Aries are great leaders because they are decisive. They know exactly what they want. They're confident. They are initiators, right? Not only do they know what they want, but they're going to grab it. And they are leaders. Now, the challenge for Aries is they might think that they're a leader, but unless somebody's following them, they, they are leading no one. So how do we balance all of these wonderful energies? You have a strong Aries brand if you have your sun, moon, or rising sign in Aries. Now, you might think of some of the things that I was talking about earlier, saying that Aries, especially if you have Aries sun or Aries moon, and I'm saying that you're decisive and confident and an initiator, and you're like, that's not really me. Well, there could be other reasons. You could have your Aries sun, a very fiery sun sign in a water house, like the fourth house or the eighth house or the 12th house. Both my biological father and my good friend both have Aries suns. but they are not your traditional extroverted Aries. And when I checked their sites, indeed, they both had their suns in water houses, meaning that they had a kind of like a more introverted or more demure expression of Aries, but they are still always the ones that are super initiative, take really good care of themselves, and put themselves first. You gotta love it. Funny thing is that earlier this week, I was talking to my fellow astrologer and friend and cohort, Suzanne Bella Vista Murray. She's actually helping me edit my astrology book right now. And we were talking about the Aries energy because we were both saying, hey, we don't really have too many Aries clients, like clients that have a lot of Aries energy. And I was laughing with her about this because it's true. Not too many Aries clients come to me, like whether or not they're just like Aries sun sign or Aries moon. But recently I did have an Aries client. She had an Aries moon, she had some other things in Aries. And my philosophy, or my thought rather, on why Aries clients don't really come to me is that most Aries people, they actually don't really want to be told. Like they already know, right? And when you're giving an astrology reading, you're kind of like having this conversation. There's like this kind of give and take. And sometimes in an astrology reading, we're just really validating what people already know because that's what we see in the chart. Like they're actually working in an alignment. And when an Aries person, when you tell them what they already actually know, when you actually just validate what they already inherently know about themselves, they actually kind of resent you. So it's not really a surprise to me that I don't see too many Aries clients coming to me to get readings. And of course, like for every astrologer, we're actually working with people that are energetically aligned to us. And I don't have that much Aries energy in my natal chart. So I mentioned that Aries in our businesses is the ruler of the first house. And the first house is all about brand identity. It's the first thing that people experience about our brand. And the first house, the doorway of the first house called the cusp, is also the rising sign or your ascendant. I'm going to do an entire episode about the rising sign because it's so important in our brand. But in the first house that Aries rules, your business's identity, your brand personality starts here. And I say starts here because it actually deepens in some other houses, with your values and your communication style. But with your first house, looking at your business and how people come to you first and how people experience you first, think about your website, visual identity, social media, all of the articles that you have out there. Like our brands have to be everywhere now, right? So with that, how cohesive is your brand showing up in all of the different places that people might find you? So even though Aries rules the first house, most of us will not have Aries on the first house, right? But we're going to have Aries in our chart somewhere. And I talked about the houses as being 12 segments of our natal chart that each represent a piece of our business. I'm talking about business astrology here, or brand astrology. And wherever we have fiery Aries opening up the doorway into that portion of our chart, is where we need to take initiative, where we need to be the bold, courageous leader. And we want to know where this is specifically because when we're not leading, like when we're not really stepping into that power of leading, and I really hope that you're leading because if you're listening, you are an entrepreneur or a thought leader, you're somehow leading others to make a better change, to live a better life somehow. And when we are not leading in our business or for ourselves, we get stuck in indecision. We don't take action. We don't initiate. We don't take the lead. And oh my gosh, if as a business owner or an entrepreneur or a thought leader, if you're not taking any of those actions, guess what? You're not really being effective. So, because this is about Aries season and a rebirth and evolving our business for the future, especially right now, wouldn't it be awesome to invest some of your newfound time into your business future? And what about your website, right? I imagine, at least I know the experience that I have with a lot of my clients, that their website has been a sore spot for them because either they never have time to finish it, or it's been so long since they touched it that nothing on there reflects them right now. And it seems like just this huge task that people just, when something is just like too big, they tend to ignore it, right? But the fact is that your website is your online hub that brings all of your different channels together, right? I know all of us have multiple channels, whether it's like different social media channels or you have different content on different places. Your website brings everything together so you can highlight and showcase all of your work that you want to be seen. So, when is the last time you touched your website? Is the information current? Does it reflect what you currently offer? Because we're in a time that we have all of this extra time where we should be investing into the future of our business, I have a brand new website planner. It's absolutely free, and it's going to be like a checklist that asks you all of the right questions so you can create a vision of your new site before you get started. You know, you can create this vision, create this plan, share it with your designer, do it yourself, hire me. However, you're going to get this thing done, start with a vision and a plan. So if you want this free website planner, go to thesavvyluminary.com/web. Again, that's thesavvyluminary.com/web and get my free web planning guide. All right, let's go house by house and look at if you have Aries on the cusp of that house. So, first of all, a cusp is a doorway. And like I mentioned, the natal chart is divided into 12 segments. And at the line of each of those segments, that is called a cusp or a doorway into that house. And whatever sign that you have on that doorway is how you will approach the field of existence in that particular house. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that the first house, which is traditionally ruled by Aries, represents our brand. But that first house, cusp, your rising sign, will more than likely not be Aries. It could be any sign. So if you think about your rising sign, that is the doorway into your first house, and you have 12 of them. So in my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, come on over. I'm putting together a free mini training about how to look at your natal chart and discover the signs that open up your doorways to your house, otherwise known as the cusps. And when you know what your cusp is, you will just have greater insight as to the archetypal energy, the zodiac sign, assigned to that house. I'll teach you how to find each cusp and what that means for you. So, wherever you have Aries in your chart is where you are meant to be the leader and to take initiative. And understanding this is really, really important. So, in my group, The Savvy Luminary, a fellow astrologer and member, Tiffin Dillon, asks, Aries is my second house cusp, and I want to work with this energy to really strengthen my inner and financial resources to boldly claim my value. What would you suggest? So, just hearing Tiffin's question is pretty amazing because she's already using the language of a second house Aries cusp. The second house is about adding value. And when you have Aries on the second house cusp, you add value literally by being yourself, by being unapologetically your awesome self, your go getter self. You are a natural entrepreneur because you work really well under pressure and you have a gift for making quick decisions and acting fast. These are all really great skills for successful entrepreneurs. Tiffin, you show your value as an entrepreneur, one that is an instigator, right? Just like putting the flame on, getting it done. And one that has created a great living for yourself as a spiritual entrepreneur. For you to add value is for you to literally toot your own horn about all of the adventures, everything that you've taken risks on, and how you have won or sometimes not won from those risks. Got it? And so, through your second house, the gift that you are offering, you're teaching your ideal customers how to be self starters like you and be the leaders that they need to be so that they can feel physical comfort, security, and joy. Now, I'm bringing in that last part about the physical comfort, security, and joy. That's because you have, while Aries is on your house cusp, you have a lot of Taurus in your second house. So it's a combination of the Aries and Taurus energies that is the true gift of your offering of astrology to your customers. So even though they're going to you to learn how to be certain things or to get insight, what you're really teaching them through example is how to be a self-directed, self-starting leader for in their lives, in their families, however that represents for them. And you show them by example, being 100% you, no hiding. So let's go through house by house how you need to show up boldly and confidently if you have Aries on one of these cusps. So if you have Aries rising, also known as your first house cusp or your ascendant, you are a natural born leader. You are decisive and self-directed. That's enough said. As I mentioned earlier, in order to be a true leader, your challenge is to then find initiatives that are exciting to others so that other people will follow you so you can live your life as a true leader. You're not a leader if no one follows you. If Aries is on your second house cusp, you lead by adding worth and practical, physical, or monetary resources. You are a natural entrepreneur, just like Tiffin in the previous example. If you have Aries on the third house cusp, you lead by clearly speaking up through action-oriented communications. You are a great orator or writer or speaker or anything that has to do with communicating. If you have Aries on the fourth house cusp, you lead in your home, in your family, and in your close community through caring. You are a true matriarch. If you have Aries on the fifth house, you lead in an entertaining and creative way through joyful charisma. You are a passionate performer, or you might lead children. If you have Aries on the sixth house, you lead by serving others through creating automated systems and routines. You are an efficient COO, Chief of Operations. If you have Aries on the seventh house, you lead by connecting yourself and others through committed partnerships. You are a natural born connector. If you have Aries on the eighth house, you lead by enabling others to transform themselves, that in turn serves both them and you. You are a master negotiator. You will gain your power through others. If you have Aries on the ninth house, you lead by promoting expansive possibilities through marketing or PR. You are a visionary trendsetter. If you have Aries on the 10th house, you lead in your career through a strong personal brand. You are a driven professional. If you have Aries on the 11th house, you lead your greater community of friends and networks. You are an initiating humanitarian. And finally, if you have Aries in the 12th house, you lead with connected consciousness, intuition, and empathy to all. You are one with all. Now, I'm curious to see if any of these struck a chord with you, because I know for me, I don't really have very strong Aries, and this was a stretch for me. So only recently did I really look at where I needed to bring in more initiative and more leadership. And I have my Aries on the 11th house cusp, that of greater community, friends, and networks. It was only recently, like in the last 6 months to a year, that I really saw myself as a leader in a greater group. And hence, that's why I started the Savvy Luminary, both the Facebook group and the podcast. And now I'm here. I'm really living my cosmic design to be an innovative humanitarian so that all of you visionaries can show up bigger, brighter, and bolder. Yay, Aries season. All right, so Aries new moon is coming up this week, and this is the new moon to ignite your initiative. You know, we've been talking about leadership, and this is the beginning of your leadership cycle. This is the time that you can plant the seeds so that you can fully show up as a leader. And if you've been resisting being a leader, you've heard me talk about why it's so important for each and every one of us to show up as a leader in our business so that we can make quick decisions that are going to drive our business forward so that we can lead the people that we are really meant to serve. And so this Aries new moon at 4 degrees Aries is going to really help us. The Aries new moon is going to happen on March 24th on Tuesday, really early in the morning for us Pacific and Eastern time in the States. And if you want to go back to one of my previous episodes on the new moon in Virgo, episode 4, I give you all of the steps that you need to do to create a new moon ritual. So way back in October 2019, when the full moon in Aries last occurred, that was the end of a leadership cycle, right? So if you can think back to 6 months ago from October to now, we were kind of like taking apart what it meant for you to be a leader. And now we get to replant the seeds so that we can start anew, right? So if you look back to the last full moon in Aries in October, where have you come since then? Have you noticed, have you re-examined how you are either showing some initiative or not showing initiative? And don't worry if it's not been going the way that you wanted it to go, because now you get a fresh start. I'm going to give you some prompts for some things to think about as you set your intentions for this Aries new moon. And if you want even more specificity for you, look in your natal chart and discover where Aries 4 degrees is. The house placement of where the new moon will occur will also give you more insight as to where in your life and business needs further examination where you can start fresh. So here are some igniting prompts to set your Aries new moon intention during this Aries new moon. Where in your business do you need to be seen as the leader? As I was mentioning all through this episode, we need to be leaders. So where are you going to show up most effectively as a leader? And once you've decided that you are going to be the leader in this area or space, how do you want to feel as you take initiative? Again, there's so many different types of leaders. So you get to choose the kind of leader that you want to be, and you get to choose how you want to feel when you finally empower yourself. What about your visual brand? What part of it needs a rebirth or a refresh? Maybe your website needs some touch-ups, or your actual logo and brand identity. Maybe it's social media or some profiles, like maybe it's time to resurrect LinkedIn. I've been thinking about it. What about your personal brand style? The way that you actually present yourself, your clothes and your makeup. Well, today is not a really good example of me if you're watching on video. I'm working from home and I could barely put on a little bit of lipstick today. But maybe, just maybe, as you present yourself in the world when we get to leave our homes again, is there part of your personal style that needs a refresh? And again, remember to look at your natal chart, look at where 4 degrees of Aries is activating. Is there more insight as to where you can direct your refresh activities for this new moon? So as a reminder, please join my safe community online on Facebook called the Savvy Luminary. It's a safe space for entrepreneurs like you to connect, share your stories, share your worries, share your wins and inspiration. Later this week, I will be holding a new moon ritual in the Savvy Luminary, so head on over there to get details. I'm taking it a day at a time right now, so I'm not sure of the time or the schedule. And as I mentioned earlier, if one of your intentions for this Aries new moon is to plan a new website, then grab my free planner. You can find that at the savvyluminary.com/web. Again, that's at thesavvyluminary.com/web. And you can get your free website planner. It goes through all of the things that you need to be thinking about, whether you're creating a brand new website or you are refreshing a current website. Because if you're refreshing a current website, that website likely has a lot of legacy and you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I mentioned last week that our very first guest interview is going to be happening next week. Oh my gosh, I am so delighted because I was a guest on her podcast in February of 2018, and she really helped me grow my business. She is an astrology celebrity on Instagram with a massive reach, and she also has a wonderful astrology podcast that you've probably heard of, Soul Shine Astrology. If all goes as planned, this episode will drop the week of March 28th. And from her website, I want to just introduce her. She says that she's Natalie Wallstein. She's obsessed with tapping into the ancient wisdom of astrology to help inspired entrepreneurs and creative souls in need of direction, to courageously align their career with the cosmos to discover a greater sense of clarity and confidence. And she says that my first name means birthday in Latin. And as it turns out, that is just all about the information I'll need from you to uncover the secret astrological blueprint behind your life mission. I'm one part intuitive astrologer counselor and one part down to earth career coach. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am so excited that she's going to be on because she's going to be sharing her story of how she overcame an unhealthy career and relationship and turned the ship around to help others searching for their career meaning, all before her Saturn return. This woman is a powerhouse, and I'm delighted to have her on the podcast as my first guest. Remember, you're not alone. I would love to see you in my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary. It's a safe online space for visionary entrepreneurs to connect, to share their businesses' challenges and wins, and to share their unique wisdom. Hop over to the Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you next week with our guest interview, the superstar astrologer from Soul Shine Astrology, Natalie Wallstein. See you then. Bye. Mahalo for listening to this brand new podcast. If you enjoyed learning about astrology for entrepreneurs, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast with your business besties, and hop over to The Savvy Luminary for links to episode notes and our free Facebook community where you can send me questions about astrology or branding, as well as connect with other like-minded businesses.